motorsport is a really technical game. You've got a bank full of technicians, you've got drivers trying to input data. It's a busy, busy place. What goes on, we don't know anything about. So we brought in a professional. Renger van der Zander is going to try and talk through what goes on here. Renger, first session out. You've got a base from last year.
Yeah.
What happens here? What are we looking at with all the technicians? Because it's very busy.
So basically we have a lot of people working on this team. There's a mechanic on that side, we're working on the car flat out. But then we have a guy for the electronics, only working on the electronics. Guy from the engine and the data, this is him. Then Giancarlo is our main engineer, so he runs the car basically for setup, for strategy and all that. We have a guy for the weather here, because last year there was a big thunderstorm and we learned from it. And same way in Spa, there's a lot, you know, to lose or gain if you know what the weather is going to do. You never know exactly, but hopefully he can help. Then we have Dario, who's on the pit wall now because we're in the session. And Dario basically is doing the radio calls, so everything that speaks to the driver is Dario. And we have a whole list that we work through. Basically what I like, what my other teammates like, to hear when we are in the car. And he's very good on the radio to update us on what we do. So basically we have all kinds of monitors and live data from the car coming to our laptop. So we can see if the engine is running fine, if the temperatures are good. All kinds of information about tire pressures, about what we need to know about the car not shutting off when it gets too hot, or all kinds of parameters that we need to know. So yeah, that's about it from the engineering side, and that's how we go racing.
But Renger, you also, obviously now Bertrand has just got out the car first session, so he'll give feedback. Then would you sit together once you've all had a session and talk through what worked for you, what worked for him, and find a best solution?
Yeah, during the session you also might want to change your plan again, because we made a plan already weeks before, and this is like, okay, Baguette, my teammate, has been here before, he knows the car, but he hasn't been in the car for a long time. So get him out there with the new tires, get a feel for what the track is like, how the car is, and get him up to speed with the car again. Then we found out that the track this morning was very dirty, so we said let's rotate the drivers so we all get a feel for the car, because in a dirty track you cannot set up the car. So you change your plan basically every time. You make a plan, you change it during the session and start working on it again. So
and in the race, I mean, it'll be critical the input that you're giving back to the pit wall in terms of what are you feeling from a handling perspective with tire pressures, because you can make those changes as the track temperature drops.
Yeah, you're really always in touch with your team. So as a driver, you're giving feedback how the car handles, about the balance of the car, also how the tire degradation is going over a stint. Some tracks are very abrasive, so you can only do 60 minutes on a set of tires, you need to change the set of tires. And here, it seems to be okay with the degradation, so you can maybe do 1.5 stints on the tire, which the feedback from the driver is very important to the team if you're actually going to do that or not. So there's a lot to it. You know, also if you see a big cloud coming on the back of the track, you want to tell the team and you make decisions together.
It's unbelievable because people don't get this insight or this input. They just see what's happening on screen and you in the car, but it is so much information for you as a driver to have to compute. You're trying to keep the car on the black stuff and you've got to remember all this other important information.
Sometimes 2 or 3 times a lap you're talking to your engineer about brake bias. You know, they can see the temperatures of the brakes, so I always ask them like, hey, is it okay to maybe get a bit more front bite or change the ABS or the traction control? And
so you can adjust all of that on the fly. I know about the brake bias, but I didn't realize, so you can change how much traction you're getting?
Oh yeah, we have 2 TC buttons, we have a traction control, brake bias, ABS settings, so if it's raining you want to have more ABS than when it's dry. With the old tires you want to have more ABS than when it's older tires or new tires. So it's it's a lot to it actually.
It's unbelievable, and thank you for this insight, because you know, we don't get to go behind the scenes. It's amazing.
Yeah, if you look here, we have a physio actually working on it, on the whole team, not only the drivers. Is Emiliano, he's doing I think 35 races a year with all kinds of classes with us in the ICGT, but also in LMP2, in other races. He's working with Antonio Felix da Costa, one of those Formula E drivers.
That is massive. I mean, the amount of strain physically your body's being put under in a 9-hour race, 24-hour race, important. Do you have a de-stress?
Oh yeah, and he knows what we should eat and all that. So I can learn a lot from a guy like this to how to stay fit and how to work on your sleep and all that. So it's really good.
I need a few secrets.
I might tell them after this interview.
We'll share it. One last thing before I forget. Everyone talks about balance of performance. How do the teams? How does that get decided by SRO? Do you know in simple terms?
Yeah, but basically the balance of performance is about making all cars equally fast, so we can really have a good fight on track, which is a fantastic way to do it. It's not easy though. Yeah. So sometimes, our car is very good on top speed, but we're very slow out of the corners. So basically, at the end of the straight, we're same speed. In the beginning, they pull away. So you're always fighting with, let's say a Porsche is really good out of the corner, but very slow on the end of the straight. So between us, if we race each other, it's always an interesting one. But
it becomes so difficult because the traditional overtaking position would be into turn one, but if you're not getting good drive out of the last corner, it makes it really difficult.
Yeah, exactly that. So sometimes they give us more power or less power or more weight or less weight, and that's what they do with all the cars. And SRO has always done a very good job. Also because they have so many cars in the field, they can really see what each car is good at and bad at. So that's basically how the BOP works. But
isn't that more difficult for you guys only having one car here? Because that becomes quite difficult to get a base throughout. If there were 3 or 4 Hondas running, they could get an even, I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. For SRO, it's much easier if there's many cars from one brand. Yeah. There's always someone who is doing a good sector here or sector there. With us, we have only one car, so we could play the game as in being very slow in practice, show no pace and all that, but we don't do that. It's not the style of the team. It's also not, we're a Japanese brand. It's not the style of the Japanese how they work, so I think we have a very equal balanced performance going into this weekend, so hopefully we have a bit of a weight disadvantage, I think, so hopefully that doesn't hurt us too much, but I really think SRO knows what they're doing, so hopefully we're okay.
But thank you for clearing that up. I love the fact that you guys go out not to play games, not to sandbag, but to race and race hard and fair.
And also for the driver like me, when I go out, I want to just be fast. I want to work on the setup. I don't want to think about political games, so I'm very happy with that.
Kelvin, this is where the fun and games are over. First session of the race weekend, you just got out the car. How's it going?
Yeah, first impressions was good. It's a bit empty outside there. I just see a lot of green grass, which is, I mean, it's cool to be out there. The track's obviously still very dusty, so, we're building up to it, running our program, trying to get all the, let's say, admin work done while the track is still green, and once it rubbers up later this afternoon, we'll have a go and do some qualifying simulations.
So now you're running car, full tanks, every driver gets a go, just to kind of get a feel for green conditions.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the European guys, they don't really know the track. So obviously I grew up here, I've done some promo days here, so I know where it goes left and where it goes right. But my teammates need some laps to get used to. There's 2 or 3 drivers that weren't here last year, so they need some time in the car. And from that perspective, that's what we're doing now and using that time.
So how much change? I mean, we've got like clever guys here, technicians, banks of data, everything linked to the car. How much of that input are you involved in now? You get out of the car, you can actually make changes, check with your engineer, maybe you want to change tire pressures. Is that the normal process on a race weekend now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the engineers, they see more than the driver sees in the car. They have live data, so they can analyze everything. They actually give us all the feedback in the car. For example, here now on a green track, we're working on how the brakes are working. We have ABS, so we want to try to fine-tune that, what settings, software running. That's mainly what we're doing at the moment. And we have, software engineers, at least 5 software engineers just going through data, studying while I'm in the car. And by the time I get out, they're ready to download and go through it with me. So.
And weather conditions. I mean, the guys now know to expect rain. So, I mean, you can't really simulate that, but obviously how you set up the car is going to be very different. I mean, all that you can change once you go into race mode is literally brake bias, I guess, ABS, tire pressures. That is it.
Yeah, we're very limited with the tools we have, but nowadays I think especially how this race is going to plan out, you can't really plan for the rain because I expect very few safety cars. There will be a sprint race. Yeah. So for the first 5 hours, you need to be quick. You cannot be hanging around waiting for the rain to happen.
You're never going to catch up.
Exactly. So we need to be fast in the dry as well, so that makes it tricky, and I think that'll be the strategy. Have a fast race car for qualifying, and in the dry and in the wet, we freestyle.
Kelvin, I love it, freestyle. Hang on for dear life. Kelvin, the balance of performance is an interesting thing because I love what SRO is trying to do because I think it gives us great racing, lots of manufacturers, but it's a really tricky science to get right. Is there a chance that they look at these sessions now and they can make changes before qualifying?
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of data. You must remember the SRO has series running in America, in Europe, everywhere. So they have data from all over the world, all kinds of altitudes, different racetracks, different layouts. So it's pretty much dialed in already. I doubt that there'll be any big changes this weekend, especially from the data they have from last year. Last year was a bit more difficult because it was our first time here. They've made adaptations based on the results from last year, and I think it should be fine.
Just thank you. Awesome to be behind the scenes, because this is information and experiences we don't get to share, and now we can share it with the guys around. Thank you.